Hello everyone, this is part 41 of What If Naruto Was Adopted by Kakashi, and I hope you guys enjoy this video and to like, to subscribe, and check out the playlist, to see more comment down below. Now let's start the intro.
They call me a god. They call me a god. They call me a god.
Naruto groaned as the light hit him in the face. It had been over a month and it seemed that he was waking up sore each and every day, but that just meant that he was getting stronger. His body was learning to strike at all the weak points that he had been training his body to remember to hit. Places like the tip of the chin, the temple, the bridge of the nose where you can break the cartilage, where the liver and kidneys were, solar plexus, throat, ears, under the arms and all kinds of places. Naruto had learned hand-to-hand combat, but this was more vicious and precise style of almost literally taking a person apart one hit at a time. He looked around, the small room where the futons were all empty except for his. The place was still a mess. Hell, there was a stack of adult books and magazines in one corner. It was odd that he didn't see anyone. Usually when Naruto's body tried to sleep in, he was woken up with a cold bucket of water by Takamura. But the place was empty. Looking around, he heard the sounds of someone working the really heavy punching bag. What's going on? Naruto asked. Sorry kid, but there's no more training today, Jiraiya told him as Takamura didn't even acknowledge him as he just kept on training. We are. Yep. Jiraiya was sitting on the ground folding up a scroll and placed it next to him. We got to get moving on, but there is one more thing I wanted to show you while we are still here. What is it? The boy asked his teacher. It will be later today. In the meantime, I want to see personally how you're developing. Jiraiya smiled at the boy. He hadn't had any time with writing all the time in order to keep Takamura happy. Although the little bits he had made time for the kid had improved. Looking the young ninja over, the boy didn't look too much different, but with the clothing on you wouldn't be able to tell. He knew that the boy's already insane stamina had increased, but also the boy's speed. When they started, Naruto could barely keep Takamura in sight some days, but now he could at least keep up. The boy nearly collapsed when Takamura went all out and Naruto struggled to keep up with that, but it was an improvement. Takamura had also been drilling into Naruto's body how to target opponents' weak spots almost on instinct. They got to an isolated area on the beach as Jiraiya got into his own fighting stance. All right kid, taijutsu skills only. You got it. Naruto eagerly got into his own fighting stance, ready to show him what he had learned. He kicked off with his toes as he quickly filled in the gap between them. Naruto jumped up with a kick as Jiraiya blocked it with his arm. Jiraiya noticed that when he went up to block, Naruto shifted his strike just enough to hit the wrist joint. That was good. You attack the joints while your opponent is blocking in order to weaken or just outright break the joint. It limits the ability of the fighter if you could do that. Jiraiya lashed out with his own kick to Naruto's head. The boy dodged back with his guard up, moving just his head so he could snap back into his fighting stance. Also good, less movements meant less energy wasted. The Sannin managed to nail Naruto with a side kick that the boy took like a champ. He could see the training starting to take hold in Naruto. He was more balanced and his combat was more polished. Takamura's tense training had hammered things home. To get his muscles to remember where to hit without thinking, how to take a hit and counter nearly on instinct. Sure, there was still room to grow, but now Naruto's basics were polished to a shine. It did his old heart proud to see him now. For a brief moment he was reminded of another young blonde student. Alright Naruto, let's take it up a notch. Jiraiya rolled his shoulders, loosening up a little bit. Bring it on, I'm ready. Naruto grinned at him. After they were done, Jiraiya took Naruto for a meal. There were no ramen stands in the area, to Naruto's disappointment, but Jiraiya felt the boy could use something a bit healthier in his diet. But still he found a decent place and the boy was eager for his meal. There was nothing like eating a meal after working up an appetite. When they got back, Takamura was gone and Jiraiya told him to pack all their stuff up. Naruto wasn't sure what was going on, but it was obvious that Jiraiya had a reason for it all. When they were done, his teacher started leading him to an area that had many other people gathering. Naruto looked around as there seemed to be an excited air among everyone. He was really curious what was going on now. Everyone was walking towards an area of the village he hadn't been before. As they walked through the crowding streets, he found that eventually something could be seen. As they got closer, he could make out stands. Jiraiya led him up into the stands as now Naruto got a good look around the place. It was a large outdoor arena. In the center was a ring that looked to have people were finishing up setting up the ring. So we're here to see a fight, Naruto asked him as they took their seats. Not just any fight, the man told his student. This here is a match between champions. The villages in the area all have their own champion, but to know who the strongest out of everyone is to have the champions fight it out. Some fight for the honor of their villages, some for the glory, they all got their reasons but all fight with everything they have. He nodded his head as two men entered the area and the crowd started cheering. Here they come. Naruto didn't know one of the men but the other was Takamura. Wait, he's this village's champion. Well, why do you think you were training under him? Jiraiya asked him point blank. Well, now you're going to see why I picked him to help you out. Pay attention to this fight, Naruto, because men like these are the real deal, they put everything on the line. Naruto watched as the two fighters got into the ring. Both had their hands and feet taped up wearing only trunks. Each man had a couple of people in their corner as Takamura raised his fist to the crowd as there were cheers for him. Both fighters went to the center as a man who looked like he was going to call the match. Both men bowed as there was someone with a bell that rung it. Naruto expected Takamura to go on the attack, but instead the other man hit first and kept on hitting. The opponent landed several punches before throwing out a kick. All were blocked by Takamura, who sent out a jab that missed and pulled back his defense. His opponent lashed out with a combo of punches followed by a kick to Takamura's left arm. Naruto watched as the man just took everything. What the hell is he doing? He's being patient, Jiraiya told the boy. Look more closely. The other guy threw out more punches and kicks but nothing's landed. His defense is still strong and when Takamura strikes out they're measured. He's judging the other man's distance and his reaction time. He's getting the timing of his opponent's punches and kicks with solid defense. Naruto watched the match go on. Near the end of the first round, Takamura was throwing more and more punches and kicks. They landed more and he even managed to get a few good shots in. Sure, the other guy seemed to be learning as well, but Takamura seemed to be getting ahead in the fight. During the second round, Naruto paid a lot more attention. This time Takamura came out strong, going on the attack and pushing the other fighter back. Just when it looked like Takamura was taking the whole match, the other guy pulled a new move out. Takamura went for a right hook as the man came in with a short uppercut. Both powerful fighters hit each other in a duo exchange as both their heads twisted as the impacts could almost be heard over the crowd. When they got their feet under them again, they both threw out yet another duo exchange, then another and another. Damn, that's a brutal and very risky strategy. Jiraiya could see the damage building on both fighters. They're doing it on purpose. Naruto asked him, not taking his eyes off the fight. Well, he started it, but Takamura isn't backing down and going along with it. Jiraiya sighed. That man's pride was a weak point that could be exploited too easily. It's all going to come down to guts, who has the most heart to keep going. All those hits are adding up damage, they have to push past the pain and keep going. Already you can see their legs starting to shake. Another huge exchange happened and before another was landed the bell rang. It felt like the entire arena had been holding its breath and now a sigh of relief had gone out before the cheering started up again. Naruto could see the men had blood coming out of either their mouth or nose. He wasn't sure, but he thought Takamura's eye was slightly swollen. Well, now that there is a break, we'll have to see something new. Jiraiya thought about what might happen next. The pacing is gone, so unless they want to go back at a slugfest, someone can now use something different to set the pace. I think my dad told me about setting the pace of a fight to how you want it, Naruto offered. Jiraiya nodded. Yep, if you can control the fight, the odds of you losing are lowered. The fighters started the next round. As both men charged, it would see that they were going back to where they left off, but then something happened. The opponent suddenly changed his tactics last minute. Takamura's punch missed as the man sidestepped and countered with an elbow strike to the face. Takamura's face twisted as he fell to his knee, his hand stopping him from falling, but now there was blood flowing from the strike. That's not good. Naruto knew that an elbow strike to the eyebrow causes it to rip open. This made a lot of blood start to flow. Now it wasn't lethal, but it blinded you as you can't see out with that eye as you have to keep it shut with all the blood getting in it. Might have been the wrong move for him though. Jiraiya crossed his arms as the crowd was starting to get really worked up. That only pissed him off. Naruto watched as Takamura slowly got up, but there was a look of fury on his face. Naruto thought he had seen Takamura angry before. The man's temper was shorter than Gaara's, and this guy had just brought out a pure rage Naruto hadn't seen before. The man threw a punch as Takamura just took it. He kicked out with his leg with such force that it landed right on the man's elbow, and his arm bent in a way that Naruto knew wasn't nature. The man's face was one of pure shock. Apparently the pain from that hadn't hit him yet. Then Takamura moved in and hit the man with a strong left to the face, followed by a punch to the guts that nearly lifted the man off the mat. That's when he bent forward and Naruto knew it was over. Takamura grabbed the man's head, pulling down as he rammed his knee into the man's face. Naruto watched as the man just snapped back and fell boneless to the ground, his face a bloody mess and his arm bent in an unnatural angle. The crowd erupted even before the referee called the match to an end. Takamura! 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 The crowd shouted. Look at him, Naruto, Jiraiya told the boy, even though he has one of the worst personalities I've ever met and not the best of men, in that ring he's king. This is his court and these are his people. He is their champion because he embodies a strength all men wish they could have. He never gives up and fights with every fiber in his being. This is a man born to fight. Fighting for him is as natural as breathing. It's life, and when he's not in the ring he's only waiting for the next match. That is man holds an indomitable spirit. You can hurt him, bleed him, break him, but he will never go down. He will stand and fight because in that ring you are either the victor or the loser, and he always wants to be the victor. Jiraiya had hoped that this fight would also serve as an example to Naruto. The boy was going to face some tough fights in the future, and a person needed not only be physically ready but mentally as well. He wanted to show Naruto what true fighting spirit was like, and Takamura embodied that. Before they left to continue on their journey, he wanted to expose Naruto to this. Hoping to inspire the boy, and looking into those blue eyes of Naruto, he saw that he was swept up in the atmosphere of the crowd. Good. He was hoping for a good impression would be put into the boy. Come on, kid, time to move on to our next destination. Jiraiya told him, patting him on the shoulder. Huh, we're not going to say goodbye? Naruto asked him. He's not that type of man, besides I already left him a parting gift. Jiraiya had left the last of the copy of his working manuscript behind for him to read. Now they had other things to do, plus they couldn't afford to spend any more time in this place. So where are we going next? Naruto asked him. I think we'll go up north a bit. He thought about looking for a few leads up there and checking in on a few of his contacts while training Naruto on the way up there. Naruto thought about it. Hey, will we be going near the country of waves? Jiraiya mentally thought about where that was. It was on the way if they kept to the coast. Yeah. Why? Because I wanted to know if we can swing by there and see some old friends. Naruto really hoped so. If they could, that would be the first time he had seen Haku and Zabuza in person since that mission there. Plus that bridge should be finished, making it a hell of a lot easier. Maybe he could even make a few letters and have Haku send them for him. This isn't a field trip, he told him sternly. Well, one of them is a swords master. I'm sure I can learn something from him. Naruto really hoped he would go for it, plus the idea had just hit him. Zabuza was one of the deadly swordsmen of the Mist Village. If there was anyone he could learn how to fight with a blade, it was from him, even if the guy was pretty scary. This better not be a joke, kid, he told him seriously. Honest he is. Jiraiya thought about it. It wasn't too far from here and he had a few ideas of swordmasters that might owe him a favor or two, but if the kid knew someone it couldn't hurt to check it out. Alright, but if you're wrong or playing me, there will be no ramen for the entire year of this trip. He knew that if anything would get him to fess up, it was taking away his favorite meal. Honestly, he had no idea where the kid got it. His biological parents weren't ramen freaks. Then again, he had heard something about Kushina having taken it up while pregnant. I'm not, I swear. Naruto nearly panicked at that threat. Elsewhere, Kakashi was currently on a scouting mission for the village with Sakura and Sasuke. Normally he would have a full team, even having another member to fill in the missing slot, but they were just stretched too thin these days. Besides, it was a simple mission to scout out the coast, as there were rumors of a black market crew that was stealing supplies from the coast and selling them off on another port as their own. This was why they were currently camped out on a cliff overlooking the docks of a down below them. It wouldn't take them long to get to the docks, not when you could run down the cliff face and even on the water. Sakura and Sasuke were both sitting on the cliff as Kakashi was looking around, either for a better vantage point or maybe if there was someone else out and about. These pirate black marketers seemed to know exactly what shipments to take, so there had to be someone telling them and possibly marking the area. It had been a while since they had been on a mission together, and although it was a very welcomed and familiar experience, but there was still that missing element. The two were quietly sitting around on watch, but it was just too quiet. By now they would have had to listen to Naruto complain on how boring this was or wanting to spar to pass the time or do something. Now it was just the silence and it was very odd. Sakura shifted without Naruto to focus on. There was this bit of awkward, but the silence was just getting to her. So how is training with Kakashi-sensei going? She figured that was a safe conversation starter. It's going well, Sasuke admitted. We've been switching from physical training and helping me with the Sharingan. How does that work exactly? She was honestly curious about how you train bloodlines, as her family never had anything like that, with her being the first ninja in her family. He didn't see any reason why not to tell her. It wasn't like it was a family secret or anything, plus he knew he could trust her. One of the things is that he's trying to get my eyes to track anything. Multiple high-speed targets, since when I use my eyes everything can seem slowed down to me. I can see movements of others a split second before it happens, so he's getting me physically trained in order to take advantage of that. I need to be able to quickly counter, or attack depending on how things go in a fight. He's also been getting me to copy a lot of the skills and techniques he throws at me, and then he has me practice them over and over again. But when your eyes copy something, don't you learn it instantly? Sakura knew that ability is what made the Uchiha so feared by other ninjas outside of the village. Sort of, he didn't like to admit to the limits of the Sharingan. I can copy almost anything. If I have no affinity for certain element types, it's a lot harder to use, if at all. So he has me always practicing them in order for me to get better at them. Using a weak skill against someone isn't a smart move. She nodded her head. That made sense to her. Hinata told me you were working with Kurenai-sensei a couple of times. That was Kakashi's idea, Sasuke told her. He doesn't know how to cast many genjutsu, so he has her throwing as much as she can against me. He knew that his brother favored genjutsu in a fight, so learning how to fight against genjutsu was an important step in how to fight him. Kurenai was the best genjutsu user in the village, but she still wasn't in Itachi's league. Still, it was better than nothing, and he was learning more about how to see through illusions and how they worked. We have been split around a lot lately, Sakura grinned. Just last week I was on a team with Ino and Shino. Yeah, I was on one with Kiba, Lee and Neji. He had hated that mission and she could see the look on his face. That bad. He winced remembering it. I had Lee and Kiba always challenging me, and Neji was always, well, him. Sakura tried not to giggle at the mental image of those four on a team together. Neji and Sasuke never got along, and with the other two he could only bet that Sasuke had a horrible time. I'm so sorry, that had to be rough. I don't know what the Hokage is thinking sometimes, he muttered. Well, we're all stretched thin, and with Naruto gone we don't have a full team, so we have to be split up to where we're needed. She defended Tsunade actions. She knew that the Hokage was strained. Although she did suspect that Tsunade only put in teams together when there was no one else to fill roles. There was a silence between them whenever Naruto was brought up. Neither one wanted to bring up missing him, although they did feel his absence from their lives. They knew that it had to be rougher on Kakashi not having Naruto around, as well as not knowing how things were going with him. Sakura caught Kakashi staring off into space, or he had his book open, but she could tell he hadn't been reading as he never turned the pages. She knew that her missing Naruto was only a fraction of what he was dealing with. So how is it working with the Hokage? Sasuke asked her, not liking the type of silence going on now. Well, it's unique, she told him, trying to put up a good front. Shizune-san has been a real help. Which was true. The older woman had been a huge help in helping to deal with some of Lady Tsunade's more intense traits. The worst were those days she had been drinking a bit too much the night before and came into work with a hangover. Her temper was paper thin at that point, and so Sakura learned through Shizune to how to skirt around her temper and help her deal with all the office work. Although she was training under Tsunade as a combat medical ninja, in her non-training days and when Kakashi was gone on a mission, she was used to help around the office. On the other hand, Tsunade-sama says that with a few more months of training she might get me started on chakra control techniques that only she knows. Sakura was actually looking forward to that. I wonder if I can learn how to control chakra like she can with her punches. Sasuke thought about it. If she could learn to do that, she would be the only person that would learn those techniques. He hadn't heard of Shizune ever using those kinds of super strength punches. It would be a great asset to their team. Well, if anyone can do it, you can. He told her. Sakura blushed a bit from the encouragement as he kept staring out over the water. She glanced at him with a small smile that was a compliment she wasn't used to hearing from him. Thanks, I'll try my best, she told him as he nodded his head. He had to admit that she had come a very long way since their time in the academy. He was actually curious as to what she had been learning from Tsunade. Naruto was training with one of the Sannin and her with the other. Sure, Sasuke knew that Orochimaru had made that same offer to him, and maybe if things had been different he might have taken him up on it. His hand went to the blasted mark on his neck. Anko had once talked to him about it and her own experiences. It just seemed that the price for that kind of power was too much. He needed to defeat Itachi and he had chosen to do it his way. He wouldn't do what his brother wanted and play whatever game he had. He wasn't going to have Orochimaru take over his body, as Sasuke still planned to revive his clan one day. He remembered how Sakura and Naruto offered to be there for him when he faced his brother one day, and Sasuke was thinking of taking him up on it. He would have to be the one to make the final blow, but Naruto's words of how the death of his clan wasn't just the spilling of Uchiha blood, but also the blood of Konoha ninja. It reminded him that he was still a part of something bigger than himself. When we get back, do you want to spar a little together? He asked, hoping that it would let him judge how far she's come. Plus he's rather spar with her than most of the others. He had his fill of Lee, Kiba and Neji for the month. Sakura thought about it, and remembering some advice from Anko, she hatched a plan. Okay, but only on the condition that after it you take me to this shop I know for some Anmitsu. He thought about it. Loser pays. Fine by me, she grinned at him as she could feel herself in her mind pumping a first in triumph. So no matter what, she basically got him to agree to eating dessert with her. Sure, it wasn't a real date or anything, but it was a step in the right direction, and Sasuke had been asking to spend more time with her lately. Well, you two seem to be getting along just fine. Kakashi's sudden voice behind them made both of them jump up and glare at him. Oh, you're even glaring in unison. Weren't you scouting out the area? Sasuke asked him. Oh, I was. He then pointed to the edge of the horizon as a small dark shape could be seen in the moonlight. It does seem a bit late for a ship to be sailing into port, Sakura commented. That is it, and I don't remember that lantern there at one of the docks either. He pointed to one dock in particular. Both of them looked, and all the docks didn't have any lights on them except for this one that had a simple lantern for some reason. Then suddenly the lamp blinked a few times. There was a blinking light on the ship suddenly. Well, now that looks suspicious, doesn't it? Kakashi asked them. Let's go investigate, shall we? Land of Waves. Two figures were walking across the large recently constructed bridge to the small island nation. Naruto was walking with his arms behind his head, grinning the entire way across the bridge, and it was starting to get on Jiraiya's nerves. Okay, you can stop grinning, he told the boy. You're just jealous that I got a bridge named after me, Naruto told him. It was called the Great Hataki Bridge, he shot back at him, remembering the sign. How do you know it wasn't named after Kakashi? He was leading the mission. Still has part of my name in it, even if it's the family name, so there, he told him. Should never have come here, Jiraiya muttered under his breath as he rubbed his face. He really hoped that whoever this swordsman was, that Naruto was right about him. He had asked the kid, but apparently he was told to never talk about events outside of the village. As a spy master, Jiraiya got it. You could never know who was listening at all times, so it was good that the kid knew how to keep his mouth shut when it really mattered, although it was a little annoying not knowing things. It was one of the reasons Jiraiya had become the spy master. Well, it was one of the lesser ones if he had to admit to it, but at least now he knew more than most. In the war he had hated going into danger without all the information. It left too much that could go wrong, even though he knew that sometimes you had to tell your soldiers something when something else was planned in case they were captured or they were a diversion. Finally they had walked to the other side of the bridge as a small village was seen nearby. Man, I hope this place got better since the last time. Naruto remembered how much trouble the place had been in when they had been here last. They finished getting across the bridge as Naruto could finally see the town. The place looked to be recovering. It was hard to believe that it had nearly been a year since he had been here last, and already he could see an improvement. The houses were in better shape, people looked healthier, the place looked a bit more bustling. He even saw kids playing in the streets. Naruto couldn't help the smile on his face looking around. It felt nice knowing that what he and the others did had helped out so much. So where are these friends of yours? Jiraiya asked. That was a good question. The letters he got from Haku didn't mention it, but he did send them to old man Tazuna's place with his daughter and grandson so they would know. I think I know how to track them down, just follow me, Naruto said confidently, although it had been a while and the place did look a bit different. He remembered that their home was on the edge of the village near the forests. He did have to ask someone for directions at least once to make sure they were still living in the same area. Thankfully, ever since the bridge was built, Tazuna was a major player in the town. Apparently he was rebuilding the fishing docks to allow for more ships and for some trade. Naruto also noticed the looks he was getting. He saw people waving to him and the smiles at him. Apparently word was getting around town that he was back. It was kind of strange seeing this and the reactions. Back home he was just another ninja, but here he and the others were heroes for this village. It felt kind of nice actually. Eventually they made their way and Naruto saw the familiar house. It looked a bit nicer now that he got a good look at it. Fresh paint and also seemed to have the roof redone. It was a nice little improvement made to the house. This the place? Jiraiya asked him. Yep, they should know where to find him. Naruto went to the front door and knocked. He hoped someone was home. Thankfully he heard someone coming and the door opened to reveal a nice-looking woman with long blue hair. Her face lit up as she saw the young boy in front of her. Naruto-kun, what a surprise, she beamed at him. Hi Yasunami, Naruto was glad to see her again. I was in the area and kind of was hoping to meet up with Haku. I wanted to get some training in using a sword from, well, you know who. He didn't want to ruin the surprise but also didn't want to use his name just in case. Oh really? Well, both are out but they should be back at any moment. She told him. Wait, are they living here? Naruto wanted to make sure he understood her meaning. Well, it's a big house and they both needed a place to stay. Haku also needed help with healing up, so I was here to help. Inari had been a great help as well with Haku. That's great to hear. He remembered that Inari had been a bit of a brat before and maybe pretty nihilistic, but he had changed by the time they left. Yes, he's been helping out with my father lately. I think he's going to follow in his footsteps and become a builder too. Tsunami smiled and then looked to the man with them. If I may ask, who are you, sir? Naruto was about to say something but Jiraiya stepped in front of him before he ruined his reputation with whatever came out of his mouth. I'm Jiraiya from Konoha, also known as the Toad Sage and one of the great Sannin. He boasted as he slapped a hand down on Naruto's shoulder. I'm also this boy's teacher for the next little while too. Oh, well, that sounds impressive. She honestly stated, although she hadn't heard of him before, which was only fitting. She was a civilian that lived in a civilian town. Ninjas weren't even seen in this town until Naruto and his group came. Of course, Jiraiya wasn't used to not being recognized either by sight or by his reputation. Even as an author of his books he was well known. Before he could say anything more, the sounds of people walking up from behind was heard. They all turned to see two individuals walking up to the house, one a tall young-looking person with long brown hair standing next to a large man who was wearing a scarf around the bottom of his face. When they got closer there was a tense moment between the large man and Jiraiya as they locked eyes with each other. Both could see a warrior when they were face to face with another. Jiraiya knew this man immediately. Even with the new look he was trying to pull off, there were a few faces from the bingo books that he memorized just because of how dangerous they were. Some people, you couldn't let them catch you by surprise, and sometimes their reputation made it impossible to not know someone. This man was all that and more as Jiraiya turned to Naruto. You never said that the man you wanted to see what the demon of the hidden mist himself, Zabuza Momoki. I wanted it to be a surprise, Naruto shrugged. Well, consider me surprised. Jiraiya told him, then he turned to face Zabuza. You were supposed to be dead. Well, consider me a ghost then. Zabuza crossed his arms but he wasn't relaxing his body. This was Jiraiya of the Sannin. Truth be told, there was a time he thought of taking the guy once, but then he got smarter and given the trouble Kakashi gave him he no longer wanted to test himself against the Toad Sage. But he wasn't going to show any weakness in front of this man either. Although meeting Jiraiya the Sennin wasn't something I thought I was going to see today either, so consider us both surprised. Zabuza said to him, letting him know that he knew who Jiraiya was as well. We wish to remain dead to the world, Haku told him with his gentle voice. We asked Kakashi-san and the others to say we were killed, and in return we've stayed here in this village as its silent protectors. I'm glad to see you're up and walking again, Haku. Naruto was glad to see the older boy was doing much better. They had stayed in touch through letters, although they had to be careful about not saying names at times in case they fell into the wrong hands. So it was nice to see him back on his feet again. The medical ninjas sent by Konoha were very good. Haku smiled, happy to see his friend again. It's also very good to see you again, my friend. Yep, me and. He paused, seeing the look on Jiraiya's face, and decided on not busting his balls for once. Jiraiya are training, and the reason I'm here was I was hoping that I could get in some sword training with you, Zabuza. You want the long answer or the short one? The man asked Naruto. Both. Short answer no, long answer hell no, now get lost. He told him gruffly. What? Why the hell not? Come on, you owe us for making you guys dead to the world, you know, Naruto challenged him. Kid, me training you isn't going to be some little training session you could end up dead, Zabuza told him, looking down at the kid. The way I train is filled with blood and pain, and that's something you'll have to face when you train with me. Haku made it, Naruto pointed out. I didn't train Haku in the art of the sword, he explained further. I didn't go easy on Haku either, but the training wasn't with a sword. I was trained to be one of the greatest killers with a blade, and that's not something to take lightly. My sword is one of the legendary blades of my country, with only one person alive able to wield it. To be picked to wield one of the 7 legendary blades and become one of the 7 swordsmen isn't easy, and I was part of the strongest generation. You really think you can match up to that? No, Naruto told him, actually taking the man aback a bit from that he hadn't expected that kind of answer. Jiraiya eyed the boy. He was staying out of this, seeing if the kid was starting to grow a bit in other ways. Besides, this whole trip to here was the boy's idea, and although he had to admit that if Naruto could get training from one of the greatest swordsmen in the world, it would be worth it. That is, if Naruto could convince him. This would be another little test for Naruto, and Jiraiya was eager to see how he handled it. I know that I can't match your skills, that's why I came to see you. If there's anyone that I can learn anything from, it's from you. It would take me years to get as good as you, and I don't got that kind of time. I've never turned away from a challenge, and I'm not turning away from this one. Naruto told him with as much conviction as he could. Hell, if I had 50 years, I probably wouldn't match up in sword skills with you or any of the other guys in the 7. But I need to learn to be stronger, and you are the only guy in the world I can think of who can help me. Haku looked to Zabuza. I believe he has earned at least a chance. The former Mist Ninja thought it over for a long moment. He did owe the kid and his people, as Mist thought he was dead. Sure, he had to pretty much stay in this backwater village, but it hadn't been all bad. He wasn't bored, and it was nice to be able to stick on one place without having to always be looking over his shoulder. Still, the training with a blade wasn't something he took lightly. He palmed his face in frustration and then gave Naruto a very steady look. Fine, I'll give you one chance. If you survive the training today, then maybe, just maybe, I'll teach you a little something. Alright. Naruto couldn't believe his luck, but he was going to get some major training done. Sure, his dad had taught him literally everything he knew about using a sword, but even his dad would have to admit that in the skills of a blade, Zabuza was better. It was a good thing that his dad was basically better at everything else that got him to beat the man. We'll start in a couple of hours. I'll have to get my sword ready, he told him, moving into the house. Well, kid, if you survive, you might have just did me a favor of finding someone to help you with your sword skills. Jiraiya had to admit to him this was a major find. He had a few ideas for sword masters, but they didn't compare with one of the 7 swordsmen of the mist. Then his attention turned to the other member in the group as Zabuza and Tsunami went into the house together. So kid, what's with the girl? Jiraiya whispered at Naruto. Girl. Naruto looked around, and when he saw Haku, he knew what the old man was thinking. Hell, it was hard not to think of Haku as a girl the first time you saw him. He was about to correct his teacher when an evil idea came to mind. Oh, that's Haku, been with Zabuza for years. She's a ninja too. Oh yeah, and Haku's tough too. He gave the woman another look. Must be in order to be with Zabuza for a long time. Well, truth is, I think Haku is into older guys. He really tried not to give anything away, but it looked like he got the old pervert hook, line and sinker. I mean, Haku sticks around him all the time. Huh, you don't say? Jiraiya grinned, wondering if he could get some new inspiration for one of his books. He moved over to Haku, smiling at her, as he began to introduce himself. Well there, Haku, isn't it? It's nice to meet you. Haku smiled as he bowed to him politely. It is an honor to meet you. I've heard of Jiraiya of the Sannin. Well, I assure you that everything you heard was most likely true, he grinned. So I have to ask, what's such a lovely lady like yourself do when you're not a silent protector of this village? He asked, placing an arm around Haku's shoulders. Haku blinked in confusion for a moment before softly laughing once before smiling at the older man. I believe you are under the wrong impression about me, Jiraiya-san. You see, I'm actually a. From far away, the horrified male scream sent birds racing from their branches. People in the village jumped as some turned to wonder what kind of horror would cause such a blood-curdling scream. Questions were asked, and even though a few swore it came from Chumani's home, no one in the village ever found out what happened that day. Konoha. It was early morning when Kakashi woke up. He turned in his bed as he wrapped his arm around the person sharing it. Anko shifted, but she didn't wake up. She always was one to take her time waking up in the morning, he found, which he didn't mind at the moment. Both of them were free today and he wanted to spend some time with her. Hell, he wouldn't mind the whole day with her if that was possible. They were both so busy they didn't get to see each other as much as they used to. Kakashi took a breath as he could still smell the lingering scent of the perfume she used last night on the date. It was her favorite brand and honestly he liked the way it smelt. He felt her shift in his arms knowing she was going to wake up soon, but he wanted to enjoy the moment longer. The place was just too quiet lately with Naruto gone. The only times it didn't feel like that was when she was here or his friends dropping by. In those moments when he returned home though, he could feel the emptiness of it. He hadn't felt so alone since before he took Naruto in, after the death of his father, then also when Rin and Obito, that emptiness only grew inside of him. It wasn't until Naruto came along when that emptiness slowly vanished, but now it was back sometimes, and Kakashi found out that he didn't like that emptiness anymore. It was in moments like this that he felt more at peace, moments with her especially. He had been thinking for weeks on something and maybe now was the time to ask her. She groaned as she stretched out and muttered something. Kakashi smirked. Sorry, didn't catch that. I said don't wake me, she muttered. You sound awake to me. He joked lightly with her. Give me a minute and I'll fix that, she yawned. Let me sleep in, we've been going on mission after mission and I want to relax. So let me sleep because I'm not getting out of this bed anytime soon. I wouldn't complain about that. You better not, Buster. She turned and cuddled up to him, getting comfortable. He didn't mind, in fact he liked having her like this as he couldn't help but gently stroke her hair slightly. Now that she was awake, maybe now was the time. You know you don't have to leave. Told you I'm not getting out of bed anytime soon. I meant here, he explained to her. You could always just move in. Anko wasn't sure she heard him right, with her sleep-idled mind finally caught up to her. Her eyes snapped open as she was fully awake now. She pushed up, looking down at him, wondering if he was just messing with her. She looked at him, but she could see how serious he was being with her. What brought this on? She asked. Well, we pretty much spend most of our time at each other's places. If we just moved in together, we'd be cutting out the middleman. She stared at him and he couldn't get a decent read on her mind in that moment. He really wasn't sure if Anko wanted to move in with him or not. Yes, they loved each other, they had said as much to each other, but it was a major change for the both of them. All he did know is that he did want her here. He wanted more of her in his life. But maybe he should be more honest with her instead of being more light-hearted. I also want you here with me. I want to see you every morning and every night when we can. I want to know we'll always have each other to go home to. I love you, Anko, and I love having you in my life as much as I can. There, he had said it all. He had bared his soul to her, and now he would have to wait to see how she would react to it. Anko was literally at a loss for words. She had no idea what to think or say. Thankfully, it seemed that Kakashi saw this and was not going to put her on the spot. Don't worry, I'm not expecting you to answer me or anything, but I just wanted to put the offer out on the table. Take your time and think about it, and when you're ready you can give me an answer. I'm not going to pressure you into this, Anko. If we ever do this, I want to do this for the right reasons. She was glad for that, but she felt a sliver of panic inside of her for a moment. I think I'll go brush my teeth. With that, she got up and went to the bathroom, no longer feeling like sleeping. Kakashi sighed, staring up at the ceiling. Well, now that's out there, I really hope I didn't push things. Anko found the bathroom as she got her spare toothbrush and started to brush her teeth while her mind raced. Was she really ready to move in with Kakashi? She liked being independent with her own home and space, but as she thought, she also thought how nice it was to come back to someone there for her. When she went home to her apartment alone, it felt strangely empty to her, like something was missing. She finished with her teeth and thought about a shower as she paused and looked around the bathroom. She had a toothbrush here, she had her own soaps, hair products, and a few other things. She knew she had some makeup in the cabinet next to the mirror. The bathroom wasn't the only thing here, as she had at least her own towels that she liked in the closet in the hall. Some of her clothing was in a drawer in Kakashi's bedroom that he set aside for her. Hell, she had some laundry still here. She had an old tea set in one of his cupboards when she wanted tea her way. Without knowing it, she had slowly been moving in over time. Hell, Kakashi even had some stuff at her place, not as much, but it was still there. She felt the growing realization that she was so close to already living here that she felt a moment of panic. Anko knew she was never one to really admit her deeper feelings, she just wasn't used to it. It took her a long time to admit she wasn't just in lust with Kakashi, to liking him, to actually have fallen in love with him. She never thought she was the one to fall in love, get married and having kids. She always figured she would die young given how life had treated her. But slowly over the years those thoughts seemed to get further and further away. Was she really ready to actually open herself up to a new possibility? She honestly wasn't sure. Kakashi gave her time, so that was good because she needed time to really think about it. This would be a major change for them both and she needed to be sure it was something she actually wanted. She sighed as she stripped out of her shirt and panties and got into the shower, letting the warm water hit her body. Why can't things just stay the same and simple? She asked out loud to no one in particular. She never liked change, but she couldn't run away from it. She just needed time to do some soul searching. Wave Village. Crap. Naruto screamed out, ducking under the massive blade as it missed his head and cut the tree behind him clean through. The large man across from him pulled his massive sword back for another attack. What the hell, that nearly took my head off. Naruto yelled at Zabuza. Your enemies won't take it easy on you, brat, the large former mist ninja told him coldly. If you can't take a simple attack like that, then you might as well let me take your head right here and now and save someone the trouble later. You're just pissed that my dad kicked your ass, Naruto muttered, getting his blade ready. He wasn't sure he wanted to take on Zabuza's own sword with his own directly. The massive blade might shatter Naruto's own sword. Unfortunately, Zabuza heard that comment and Naruto ended up dodging yet another close shave from the massive blade. You're the one that asked for this, brat, and this is why I didn't want to teach you. He told him, moving slowly around the boy like a shark circling its prey before it struck. I was trained to kill without hesitation and without mercy. I've bathed in the blood of many, including my own people. I'm a ninja when the Hidden Mist was known as the bloodiest nation because we had to be. We're not large like the other nations and we're surrounded by water, so there's nowhere to run to. We had to be more vicious and deadly than the other nations to compensate for all of this, and we stood next to the larger nations as equals. If you don't have the drive to go all the way, you might as well let me take your head now and save someone else the trouble. Now you asked me to test you out for training, so you better start doing better or you can find someone else to train you, brat. He ended the conversation with that as he readied his massive blade again. Naruto remembered the fight that Takamura had as Zabuza's words rang in his head. He even remembered a few lessons his dad told him and his team about this as well. Naruto knew that guys like Itachi were after him now and he had to be ready for it. He was going to be in for some really tough fights and he couldn't hold back. The guys he was going to face weren't, and he had to be ready for it. Steeling himself, he got up and looked right at the man in front of him. Zabuza paused, sensing the change in the boy as he looked him over. Naruto's posture was better and he didn't see any hesitation in the boy. Maybe this wouldn't be a total waste of time after all, that is if the kid survived. He wasn't going to actually kill the kid, but if he wasn't ready he might lose some blood, if he was lucky a body part at the worst. Zabuza didn't believe in coddling someone, he sure as hell never was, and he wasn't going to here either. Well, at least he's got fire, let's see if his will and determination matches, Zabuza thought to himself as he rushed forward, testing the boy's mettle. He had to admit the boy did seem faster and a bit tougher physically, but if you couldn't get into the right mindset, all that physical training wouldn't be as effective. Still, at least the boy was finally showing some promise. Zabuza continued on. He wasn't trying to kill the kid, but if he hesitated at all he might end up feeling the bite of his sword's blade on his flesh. It was late in the day when Naruto and Zabuza came back to the house. When they entered the front door, Naruto was soon surprised to see another old face to see him. Hey old man, you sober? Naruto joked with seeing Tazuna sitting at the kitchen table with Jiraiya. Apparently the two older men had been talking in depth when they had showed up again. Still a brat yourself, I see, Tazuna said back, but grinned seeing the young man again. There's someone else that would like to see you as well, and here he comes. Loud thumping was heard as the sounds of someone quickly making their way down the stairs was heard. From the doorway came Tsunami's son, Inari. The young boy was wearing his ever-present white hat as his young face lit up at seeing Naruto. Naruto! The boy shouted and ran over to him, giving the older boy a hug. Hey there, Inari. Naruto was glad to see the young boy again. Sure, they had gotten off to a rotten start, mainly from Inari's defeatist attitude, but after Inari was able to find hope again, he had changed a lot from that boy he had first met. So Mom says you're staying here to train? The boy asked him, looking up. Well, for a bit at least. He honestly had no idea how long he would be here or if Zabuza was going to continue training him. He got the feeling that today was just a test to see if he would get the training, and he really hoped he passed. Then he noticed Jiraiya giving him an evil look from the kitchen table. Oh come on, you're still not mad, are you? Naruto asked him. Jiraiya gave him a leveled look. What do you think, brat? I never said Haku was a girl, Naruto told him, as he had been very careful about not using a gender when he had been talking about Haku to Jiraiya. Of course, he also knew full well that Jiraiya knew what he had done too, but he was still going to play innocent on his part. Well, consider this karma for all your perverted ways finally catching up with you, he shrugged with a smile. Kid, I don't know when and I don't know how, but I will see karma coming back at you. The old hermit warned him. Naruto looked to Zabuza. So did I pass? Will I get more training? We'll see after tomorrow's lessons, that is if you survive, he told him as he went to put away the massive blade of his after he took the time to get it looked at. Naruto wasn't sure if he was joking or not. He would have to ask Haku later, but first he looked down at Inari. So what's been going on since I've been gone? Oh man, a lot's been happening. Inari grinned up at him. That will be it for this video. If you want more, comment down below, like, subscribe. And see you guys later.